Hello everyone and welcome back to Curly and Yarny. As always, my name is Milena and today I am challenging myself to weave a set of 2 towels in only 2 days. So let's get started. So it's currently 9 o'clock in the morning on a very snowy Sunday morning and I'm ready to start this challenge. So first of all, I need to set up the room because nothing is ready yet, so let's do this. So I'm doing this in my living room because my studio is now full of equipment and I don't have room anymore to do direct warping. But here we still have plenty of space, so let's do this. And that's it, no more tape. Hopefully, it seems strong enough, that's good. So here I've got a piece of thread that is 2.6 meters, so that's the length of my warp, because with this length I believe I'll be able to weave at least 2 towels that would be close to 1 meter each, maybe a little less. This also takes into account for the seam allowance, and I don't know how I did this, but this is exactly where it needs to be. Exactly 2 meters 60 centimeters. I guess with time I'm starting to have the eye for distance. So now we can start warping. Let me present you the yarn first. So the yarn I'll be using is some yarn from Hobbii. So this is part of their Dahlia collection. This is 100% cotton and it is very fine. They considered it a fine yarn. So number 2, I believe the name is Night Queen and the number is 11. And one thing to note about this yarn is that it is not plied. So it means that it kind of have like 4 individual strand of yarn just together, not even twisted together. I had this yarn in my stash for some time, and the reason why I bought it in the first place is that I really like the colors. There's a bit of a gradient effect in it, but at the same time it does go from green to pink, so some of the changes might be a bit abrupt, but I think that in the warp it might look nice together. I've also read mixed reviews about this yarn online. I've read that some people had a problem having a even tension, but some people had no problem. So hopefully I'll be okay with that today. So for this particular yarn, I've decided to use my 12.5 DPI Heddle. Also, I'm going to warp for a width of 40 inches. So not 40 inches, 24 inches. And I've marked my Heddle, so this is where I will start warping and this is where I will end. So the whole cake of yarn should contain about 800 meters, and I believe that with my different specification for the project I'm going to use 780 meters, so I should be okay by a margin of 20 meters. So let's see how it goes. Since that this is not a like, let's say, a normal pattern, this is okay if I end up making it a little bit narrower, but I'm still going to try to max out the width of the project as much as possible, so I'll go for 24 inches. And one of the things that I want to track in that project is how many steps I make when I warp my loom. So I have my watch here that has a step count. So as of right now I don't know if it can zoom on it, so as of right now I have 1,973 steps done today. So let's see how much I have once this is all and fully warped. Look at this weird shape it made. Okay, so it has the easy start, so I like the word easy, so let's go with this. And this is on. So when the yarn is changing, there's actually small knots in the warp, and I'd rather not have knots in my warp, so I'm going to cut it and try not to avoid having them, although they are very, very small knots, and I'm afraid I might not see them all. It sucks a little bit because I'm going to have a bit of waste yarn. Here's the little knot. It wouldn't be the end of the world if they were into my project, but I try to make it a bit more professional, so I'm gonna get rid of them. So now that this is cut, I can tie it back. And let's go! So far in the video, there's been absolutely no cats inside, which is very rare on my channel. And the reason for this is that for this morning, in order to be able to warp in peace, we plugged in a heated blanket. So now the cats have absolutely no interest into the yarn, and all they want to do is get toasty on the heated blanket. So it's about 10:08, and I've reached about the half of the warping. When I was planning this project, I decided to go with this cake yarn because first of all, it wasn't my stash, but second of all, I thought that even though I'm having a challenge today and I'm trying to weave 2 towels in one day, I still need to make sure it's doable. And I thought if I have a cake yarn like that, well then I'm sure to have a beautiful final effect without too much effort on my part, because I won't have to calculate and do a very intricate pattern. However, this backfired a little bit because this yarn is not the easiest one to work with. I believe that the effect it's doing right now is just amazing. It's very beautiful, but it is not beginner friendly. Since that the yarn is not plied, it tends to have a mind of its own. Well, the 4 strands of yarn have each a mind of their own, and they want to tangle, they want to go apart from each other, and sometimes it gets stuck in the hook or it gets stuck into the heddle. So far I think I'm still managing it okay. I'm still think it's going to work out, but that's definitely not a yarn to use for a first project, because I think if somebody did that for their first project, they would give up on weaving right away. But this all being said, Hobbii has other type of cake yarns that are cotton that have the yarn plied. I've made a video about this before with another yarn, and this one was easy to work with, so don't get discouraged. So I have only 2 inches left to go, so let's go. Yeah, will this be enough? No, this won't be enough. Okay. So actually, I think because I had to cut so many strands of yarn in order to get rid of the little knots, this cut a lot on the length of the warp, so I couldn't have 24 inches. Now I believe, I didn't count it, but I had probably 22 and a half, close to 23, and that's okay. It will be still very fine. So this is all I have left, and this is not long enough to go all the way to the pole and back. So I'm just going to cut it a little bit because it's a bit too long, and that will be a warp. But all of those pieces that I cut while trying to manage the knots are not lost. Right now they look like a bit of a bundle of scrap yarn, but I'm going to keep them, try to make little balls out of them, because if ever there's a problem with my warp and I need to adjust some threads, well, at least I'll have that. Hopefully nothing breaks, but if ever it was the case, I'll have a bit of backup. And because there were so many knots, I have some in all the colors, so maybe this is a blessing and a curse, kind of. So it took about 1 hour and a half to do this, and I know that you're all dying to hear back from my watch. So remember, I started at, I need to watch a video to tell you for sure, but like 1,700 something, I think. And now I am at, oh, wait for it, 3,587 steps, which is not that much. Somehow I feel like I've walked way more than that. But I think it's because of all of the bending over and everything. But still, it's not an actual workout, but I still moved a little bit, so that's good. So now that this is done, I'm going to move the loom back to my room, so my studio. And I'm just going to clean the rest of the room, because in order to film this, I kicked my boyfriend out of the living room, and I believe I've used the living room for long enough. He deserves to come back. So let me clean that up very quickly, and we'll be right back for rolling this onto the back beam. Okay, let's go. Again, here we can see how the threads have a mind of their own, and they really tend to want to tangle together. So the best trick I have to deal with this right now is just to take small bundles at a time and slap them very vigorously, and they just fall into place the way I want them to be. Here again, just like that. So I need to have a firm grip on them and slap, and there it goes. I feel like by saying this that many jokes can be made, but no, I'm not going to make those jokes. I'll let you make them on your own. So there we go. So I do like it. All my threads seem to be pretty equal in terms of tension, so I'm going to crank that a little bit more. So it is a tedious process that I'm going to have to do inch by inch, but it takes what it takes to get great results. See this? This is the state of most of my paper now, and this is not because I'm too harsh on them. This is my cats. Whenever there's a paper hanging or I just forget to pick them up, they eat it all. And don't actually eat the paper, they just love to destroy it. I don't know what it is. But now I need to cut my papers every now and then, and eventually I'll have to make new ones just because of that. And we're almost done. Okay, so that took way longer than what I anticipated. So it took me over half an hour just to roll it all onto the back beam. So now it's time to thread the heddle. Hopefully I can start weaving after lunch, but I'm not sure anymore. I think the real challenge of this is the yarn. It's this is what's putting the most pressure on my time. And to add onto the difficulty, since that the yarn is just 4 strands of yarn, not twisted, and I have loops, I actually end up with about 8 loose threads into the slots. We can see that like what the original thread was, they do tend to be together, but it would be very easy to confuse them and like split them apart or something like that. So yeah, again, really challenging. And voila! So glad this is done, but I'm way behind any kind of schedule, so it's almost 12:30. So now I need to put in the scrap yarn and the weaving can start soon. Now everything is ready to start the actual weaving, and weaving in the scrap yarn was really no biggie, it was easy, so I think the worst is behind us, and I think that this afternoon we can have a lot of fun. So I'm still not sure exactly which weft I'm going to use, but now I'm too hungry to think about this, so I'm going to eat and I'll be right back to start the actual weaving. And so just for reference, it's almost 12:35. Alright, so it's now 2 o'clock. I have barely started weaving. I did the 2 tests with the 2 yarn I had for the project, and I've decided to go with the coton boucle, so the curly cotton. I don't know how this translates. I think it's coton boucle, I think. I just need to say it with an English accent. I will be weaving continuously with this yarn up until the end, and then I will, once it will be done, I will just wet finish it together, and then after that cut it and sew it. So I will not make any distinction if this is the first or second towel on the project. I will know with the measurement, but still I will just go with the flow and let's see where the flow is taking us. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a de done? Tu veux pas que je tisse après-midi? Non, tu veux pas? It is currently 3:20 and my progress is still pretty slow, so I have woven about only 10 inches and out of maybe 75 to 80 inches, and but I really love the effect it's doing. So I find that the warp is just beautiful, and the boucle yarn really gives it a very nice texture, so at least I like the result. I'm also a little bit relieved because I was scared that the warp would be a mess and it's been since the beginning, but now it's under tension, everything's going well. I don't have any issues, at least not yet. Let's knock on wood to make sure it stays this way. I'm feeling a little bit down, so I'm going to eat some slices of apple, drink some tea, and trying to find a bit more energy to give it another push for this late afternoon. Still hot, still hot. It's now 5 o'clock and it's getting dark outside because, well, it's winter and we're in Canada. So I'm going to move back to the living room tonight where we'll be watching some football because we are a football household. And so I'll keep weaving there in a cozy living room. So let's go! Alright, so I have now woven a bit over 36 inches, so I have about the equivalent of one towel done, and I'm going to call it a night. I'm not sure if there is such thing as too much weaving in a day, but for me I have reached my limit. So the whole idea of this is to be weaving this whole set into one weekend, but I couldn't start yesterday on Saturday, so today is Sunday, and then the next 5 days I have to work, so I'm just going to pause this. I'm going to store my loom behind me, and I swear to you, pinky swear, I'm not going to touch it until next Saturday. So the challenge will continue on that day. So now let's just jump in time and go to next Saturday. God, I wish it'd be that easy to just snap my fingers and get to the next weekend. Sadly, no. For the video's sake, it would just feel like or jumping in time. So 1 week has passed for the next Sunday morning. Today is a very slow morning, so it's about 9:40, about 9:45, and I'm just starting weaving. Yes, I am still in my PJs because, again, slow morning, we're going to take it easy. So if she lets me weave, let's start this. I hope the mic cut that because she does purr very loudly. It's currently 2 in the afternoon. I have about 53 inches woven out of probably around 80 inches. So I'm way more than halfway done. I'm very confident I can finish the weaving this afternoon. So I've just made myself a cup of tea and we'll keep going. Oh yeah, and I'm dressed now. This is probably some of my comfiest clothes, but I'm not in my pajamas anymore, so that's a win. completed. The whole warp has been woven. So the only few things that are left to do are final touches. So I considered this a challenge that is completed. So what needs to be done now is simply to put it into the washer, into the dryer, and then I need to hem it and cut it into 2 separate towels. But other than that, this is done. Thank you so much for joining me for this challenge today, and join me again for our next one. See you soon. Bye bye. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so that you'll never miss out on my latest content. If you wish to support the channel and get some exclusive perks, well, you can join my growing community over on Patreon. You'll get early access to content, behind the scenes sneak peeks, and so much more.